Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We're here with another episode of Haikyu, episode 25. I believe this is the last episode of season 1, so we're able to finally begin season 2. I think there's an OVA in between seasons. I'll have to check that out. I don't remember exactly, but if there is one, I'll be sure to react to that before jumping into season 2. The last time on Haikyuu, I mean, our team didn't walk away victorious, unfortunately, but and they got a standing ovation from the crowd at the end of the match against Seijo, deservedly because, I mean, they played a fantastic match. They played a fantastic match, and I think I said it in the last episode that I'm glad that they lost. Not because I want them to lose, but because I think the victory needs to be earned, and I don't believe our team has done the groundwork. I don't believe they've laid the foundation to reach that glory just yet. You know, um, I compared it to a few other sports anime that I've watched, and a lot of times what they do is to propel the character as this great success from the very beginning, without seeing the work and doing the character development and growth, that results in that victory. And one of the things I appreciate that Haikyuu has done so beautifully is the characters, watching their arc, from beginning to where they are now. It's just been phenomenal, and I know there's more room for them to grow, and they're just going to keep getting better. Hinata is still spiking with his eyes closed, but I know when he masters the basics, he will be a monster on the court. Kageyama is someone who was introduced to us as a genius, someone who's beyond, has natural gifts beyond just hard work. And so, but at the same time, he still has some personality flaws that get in the way of his being a setter. Someone who needs to be able to command, a presence on the court, and know his teammates and be able to work with them very well. So he has a lot of work to do as well. You know, Oikawa is, I said it before, I mean, Oikawa is one of my favorite characters so far because, I don't know, maybe it's the appreciation I have for a lot of shonen anime kind of overlook that aspect of it. It's always a chosen one character that is successful, because they're descendants from this person or that person, not necessarily because they worked hard to get there, and that's always a flaw in some of the protagonists that we've been introduced to. So I like that here they have not taken that approach, especially with Hinata. Yes, he can jump, but we've seen other characters who have jumped just this, even higher than Hinata has, and he's at a disadvantage in that he's shorter than most persons. So I like seeing, and it's interesting to speak about protagonist because I'm not quite sure who's the protagonist. I mean, I believe it's Hinata, but Kageyama gets a lot of just as much screen time. So I mean, it can arguably say that arguably be said that both characters are our main characters in this anime. But I like the direction that the writer has taken for both these characters. They started out not being team players, or at least not necessarily team players, but Kageyama wasn't a team player. Hinata was a team player, but they started out disliking each other, and not working well together as a team. Those two specifically. Um, and look where they are now. I still feel as though Hinata needs to get away from Kageyama somewhat because he's being used as a tool, but he needs to forge his own way on the court, his own way to fight on the court. And we haven't seen him do that yet. So that is what I'm looking forward to. Hopefully, and we'll see the beginning of that in this episode. I imagine this episode will just be to wrap things up, and prepare for whatever tournaments are coming in the future. So um, I'm excited. I'm excited. So episode 25, let's check it out. Still taking it hard. If you don't keep your grades up, you're gonna be in trouble. So focus, Hinata. Losing is never an easy thing to deal with, though. Come on, guys. There are lessons to be learned in losing. Don't focus on the past now. All right. I almost forgot that there's still a match that needs to happen between Shirato Izawa and Seijo. Is that not his name? I'm curious to know what the third years will now do. Are they going to be leaving the team? Man. I mean, they did get pretty far. But if they leave now, then the team would be significantly weaker than they were unless you get some pretty talented first years for the next tournament. I don't know about that. I think without your help, they wouldn't have been as good as they are now. So there are two sides to it. I don't think he should have left sooner, but there is a valid question in whether he should leave now. Alright, so Suga is staying. Don't say that. He's not going to college. I mean, what's Shizuna doing? Yeah, he has some weak areas that he needs to work on. His serve being the least of them. I think receiving is probably his weakest element. At least talk to each other, goddammit. Yeah. He didn't do all that well, but he wasn't prepared. Trying to master something like that in such a short space of time, though, I mean, it's not easy. I wonder if Coach Yukai will make a comeback. Man, the speech is hitting hard home right now with some things that I need to do myself. Not sports, of course, but still applies. I kind of agree. I mean, I guess that's the big debate, whether it's okay to just do this because you love doing it and for fun, but you have to think about your future as well. If this team doesn't become successful, what then? You have to make that choice, with the advantages and disadvantages. Yeah. it's a tough call.
強かったな、青葉城西。強かった。すげえ強かった。このタイムアウト中の様子見たか？ああ。ほとんど選手だけでミーティングが成立してた。
Yeah, the coach wasn't even involved. Kyle was the coach.
正常の練り上げられた強さを前にしても力ずくで点を奪う。
Sure to his own. Interesting. He's left-handed. At least that's what he used to do the spike just now. Did they lose? Yeah, he lost. Yeah, think about it carefully.
部活に費やす時間も他の子らは勉強や将来確実にためになることに費やしていて、そこには当然差が生まれる。考えて選んでください。君たちが5年後、10年後に後悔しない方を。
And Hinata and Kageyama are still first years. They don't have to contend with that choice yet, but they will have to eventually. Assuming they don't go to nationals and win before then. You know, they very well could. Let the frustration out. I thought it was aiming at Hinata for a minute there. Yeah, you guys are gonna have to clean this all up when you're done. Sometimes you just gotta scream. Let it out. How long has she been there? She looks the same as she always does. Guess everyone's here to train. Even Tsukishima. Don't say it like that. They have a lot to think about. They have their futures to think about. It's not that easy. I guess they decided to stay. accept it, learn from it, become stronger. Okay. 25-23. It was a close match though. The high scores that we saw with Shiratorizawa, they were beating teams who only had scored single digits. Spring Nationals. How many tournaments do they play each year? Tokyo. Nice. I want to go to Tokyo. Take me there. Need to get those eyes open. Nice. All right, episode 25 of Haikyuu, the final episode of this season. Yeah, I mean, dealing with loss. It's never something that's easy to get past. But as I've said, during the reaction, there are lessons to be learned in loss. And to come out on the other side stronger than you were before. But one of the things I like that they did interestingly here, I've never really focused on sports at any point in my life, whether high school or college. So I can't personally relate, but I've had conversations with persons and about it, and all times, you get the impression, schools don't often do due diligence to sit with players and explain to them what the risk is. And that's not to say that, some, I think it was Asahi here, he said, he didn't plan to go to college, and that could be for any number of reasons. And I mean, not everyone will have to go to college or even want to go to college. It's a question of whether you're doing something that you are passionate about and something that you love, or you're just doing it for, financial well-being, which is often why people go to college. I'm of two minds with that, because I don't believe you should go to college purely for the purpose of financial stability. I think it's an integral part of, learning, exposing yourself to, things that you wouldn't come across or learn about in high school. I think college presents itself with a whole new set of challenges and experiences that will equip you with tools that you can use in different avenues in life. I don't think college should be something that you do purely for status and financial stability. So that's another conversation altogether. But yeah, not everyone has to want to go to college. Asahi said he didn't have any intention of doing that. But I'm glad to see that the teacher, I forget his name. Takeda. Yes. I'm happy to see that Takeda had that conversation, because oftentimes I don't think the schools are blinded. A lot of times the schools are blinded by victory and improving the school's visibility and status so that more students come in and they can rake in more funds. But they're not thinking about the students themselves and, what they're putting on the line and, what it means for their future, and explaining it to them. Because, when you're in high school, you're not thinking 10 years ahead. Most people aren't, who are in high school. They're not thinking that far ahead. So they're just thinking emotionally here in the moment, what do I want to do? But, what will the future look like 5 or 10 years down the line? So I'm glad to see that Takeda first off, the principal spoke to Takeda about it when he received, their decision, but he asked Takeda to speak with them to ensure that they feel comfortable with the decision that they're making and what this may mean for them. Um, so that's not done often enough in high school. I think it should. I'm glad to see that it was represented here. Hopefully, that's a true representation of what happens in Japan. In the school system. It's not often the case everywhere else. But I'm glad they had a conversation, and it speaks about yeah, personal responsibility, thinking about your future. And if this team doesn't win, if they go to nationals again and they lose, um, what then? What would that mean for you? What would that mean for your family? Will you play professionally after you've left high school? Is that your plan? Is that your goal? If it's not, then maybe this isn't something you should be focusing as much time as you have on. So I'm glad. I will say I wished at least one person had said no, because I feel that would have been a bit more realistic. I don't see every single person saying, um, "Yeah, we're good with just doing this because it's something that we love." I think there should have been at least one individual on the team that said, "Okay, I love this. I want to do this. I want to go to nationals with you guys, but I have other obligations that I have to consider." So that would have been nice to see. But nonetheless, I'm sure we'll see glimpses of that going forward in future episodes as well. But that was just really well done episode. Story wise, a lot of lessons coming through, and the show shines when it not only focuses on the sport itself, but the character moments that we actually get, the choices, the decisions that they have to make, and know that they have to live with those later on. So our third years are staying on, and that brings another conversation in mind, because whereas it might be the best decision for them to stay on the team, or the right decision in how they feel to stay on the team, is that what's best for the team though? I hadn't thought about it until Daichi's conversation, where he was saying to Sugawara, what it would have been best for him to step down when the first years came on and allow them to play, because um, mean there is a conversation where we can consider the direction that this team is playing in now. All the first years. Is that the right one for them, or is that just the direction they're going in because the captain is steering them in that direction? That doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best one. And you see that, I mean, again, that's something I love about the series. It's applicable in every sense of the word in life. It's not just in this anime, in this game, um, or in sports in general. Leaders, when leaders change, the team changes. So would it have been best for Daichi to have dropped out initially? I would say no, because I think from watching the team and seeing how he is, especially where Kageyama and Hinata are concerned, where they didn't get along initially, and Daichi said, "Okay, you guys need to do this," and that improved their teamwork. So I would say initially it wouldn't have been best for him to have dropped out first when they just arrived. But is it best for him to stay on now? And that's the question. I'm not sure. You know, we can say that what he's done so far has worked up to this point, but that doesn't mean that it will work going forward. So it depends. I mean, the characters, the team, they appear to have been all have worked very well together. They need more practice. That's one of the things I mentioned earlier, before the match with Seijo began. It's that while the team has chemistry, they haven't been working together very long. They haven't practiced together very long. There's not a lot of trust between the team, especially when you consider players like Tsukishima and Kageyama, who don't get along. And Kageyama's personality issues. So they have a ways to go. So whether Daichi stays on, or is it best for him to leave and allow the team, to elect a new leader? and perhaps that person will be able to relate more to the existing team, and maybe they'd be better off that way, but he does have the experience to add to the team as well. So there are two minds there, two discussions to be had there. There are certainly some advantages to him leaving, but there are also some advantages to him staying and being a part of the team as well, because both Asahi, and all the third years, their wealth of experience has helped to carry the team forward so far. If they did leave, we don't have any. There are second years that I could imagine taking on leadership. The only person I could think of that could probably do that well is Tanaka, but I can't think of anyone else. So if they do leave, that would just leave the team with just a lot of freshmen, some second years that aren't well equipped enough to actually lead a team to victory. And I think we've seen this before with another team, if I'm not mistaken. Someone else that they've played, but who knows? It may have been Seijo, I think, initially, because when we first played them, the first match that we played, it wasn't an official match or anything like that. I was calling into question how skillful Seijo actually was, because they lost to Karasuno, right? But at the same time, there was a changeover in the team. Even Kageyama, who used to be a part of the team, is no longer a part of the team. At least when they were playing in preschool, anyway. So whenever there's a shift in leadership, there's always going to be a question as to whether this is the right direction to take the team or not. And I guess for the moment, from what we've seen so far with Daichi's leadership, the answer would be it may be best for him to stay now, because there aren't that many options. Tanaka is great, but he's not. I don't think he's there yet. I see potential. I've been predicting since this the middle of this season that had the third years left, Tanaka, I think, would have been a great captain, and I think eventually that's what we'll get to. There are a few more seasons to go. I think by the end of it, we can see Tanaka become captain. I think eventually the third years are going to move on, and I think Hinata is going to become the ace eventually, and Kageyama, although Kageyama's already the starting setter, but he'll take Sugawara's position. So I think eventually we will get there, but for the moment, the third years add more value to the team here with the experience that they bring to the team, and our first years need to learn as much from them as possible. But that is my hope. That is my hope for the team. Seijo lost to Shirato Izawa, unfortunately, so we will be seeing them again, and I suspect the next time Karasuno faces them, we will be victorious. But again, that will feel like an earned victory. I don't think if we had won before, it would have been earned, because I think I think we have a lot of work to do. Hinata was reflecting on some mistakes that he made during the match, and you always do that when we mess up. When you fail at something, you think about what could have been, and the regret, is something that can hold you back, but you just got to keep moving forward. But he does need to work on his serves, his receives, and needs to keep his eyes open for spikes. So he has a lot of work to do, and they all have a lot of work to do, and I can't wait to see what happens. I don't know for the spring tournament, if we're gonna fast track next season and do a time skip, or if we'll follow the team. I hope we follow the team, because as I said, I want to see that. I want to see them do that, earn that, and the payoff will be brilliant when we do see them execute those skills in the next season. So I want to see that. All right, guys, that is it. Episode 25 of Haikyu. Be sure to post down below. Let me know what your thoughts are on this episode. Be sure to hit like and subscribe, and I will see you guys for season 2.